So, welcome to the kind of walkthrough video explaining how the processing and click engine works. So, the entire thing is built around initially the render context, which handles most of the core features of taking in game objects and rendering them out to the screen through the draw function. Objects have their own rendering logic, which allows them to be either a sprite or a custom setup of different items or something else entirely. And they have an update loop. Both of them run separately and function differently. So they're on two completely separate threads, which allows the update thread to continue even if the render thread is falling behind, because ultimately there's not that many issues that's going to arise in this case. Render really doesn't ever write to memory, it just reads from it. And it doesn't write to any sections that update might suffer from in this engine right now. Might form issues down the line, but thus far it runs fine. And then an example of how a game object could work is this cursor follower, which I will show how it works in a bit. One key difference I've made and an addition onto processing to make this whole thing a little bit easier to work with is the addition of custom math functions. They're not that uncommon, but they are my own implementation of vector mathematics. That is actually something that processing doesn't support by default. So, as such, there's an entire section of functions available here that allow me to implement the basic vector positions. Basically, allows me to introduce game objects and drawing calls in processing with vectors instead of the individual components. So normally a line, for instance, would be x1, y1, x2, y2. I've changed that to vector2 start, vector2 end. And as you can see, it turns into the underlying code. The other interesting thing is that this thing needs to be removed still. Yeah, this is the render or the update thread, and if you press P, it'll cancel. So to show the way the thing looks, this is the thing. There's a bit of an overlay I coded in that allows me to see some of the performance metrics. Currently it's running at 60 FPS, and the memory usage. Right now it's not really all that much, so it's just the standard thing that it counts up, and then the garbage collector comes in. That is really fast right now, because again, it's not that much memory that gets removed on garbage collection. And it's that cursor follower, which actually does run on a separate thread. This is all multi-threaded. It sometimes desyncs a little bit, which is not ideal, but it does work. And if I press P, the whole thing stops, because the update thread gets cancelled, but there's no code currently that breaks the thread of the rendering thread, which only closes if I close the program, and it exits with code 0. So it exits correctly. Additionally, there is already some code in here for button handling, which also checks if you've clicked on them And if you've clicked on them, it'll call its own click function. And well, by inheriting from a button, you can define your own click. So yeah, it's mostly inheritance based here, which it is itself also derived from GameObject. And it takes in an image for this. Yeah, and yeah, and then you've got the images which are created through the file handling. That's this class. It's currently just image handling because there's not anything else. But you could easily add it onto here. Well, that's it, and end of this quick overview.